Audible Inc. presents The Number That Killed Us, a story of modern banking, flawed mathematics, and a big financial crisis. Written by Pablo Triana. Narrated by Mark Ashby. Introduction. When a tie is more than just a tie. On September 10, 2009, former trader and best-selling author Nassim Taleb did something that he very seldom does. He wore a tie. By so graphically breaking with tradition, Taleb has publicly expressed his distaste for the blood-constraining artifacts, as well as for those who tend to don them. The Lebanese-American let the world know that that was a very special day for him, so special that it amply justified the sacrifice of temporarily betraying a sacred personal predisposition. So what prompted the author of The Black Swan to uncharacteristically don such an alien piece of clothing? Well, he had been invited to a very solemn venue by very distinguished hosts, with such occasion quite likely demanding certain formalism in the way of attire. And that was an invitation that Taleb had every intention of accepting. In fact, he had been waiting and expecting for more than a decade. There was no way he was going to miss it. The raison d'etre of the event for which his company was now being required had been close to Taleb's heart for most of his professional and intellectual life. It represented a central theme in his actions and ideas, close to an obsession, akin to an identity definer. He had through the years amply warned as to the havoc that might be wreaked should others massively act in a manner counter to his convictions. Such concerns typically went unheeded, to the detriment, it turned out, of society, but now he was being offered a pulpit that seemed irresistibly magnificent, impossibly far-reaching. This time, it seemed, the world would have no option but to attentively listen. As Taleb entered the Rayburn building of the U.S. House of Representatives in the Capitol Hill neighborhood of Washington, D.C. that September morning, he must have felt anticipation, and especially vindication. As he approached the sober room where several men and women awaited the start of the House Committee on Science and Technology's hearing on the responsibility of mathematical model value at risk, VAR, for the terrible economic and financial crisis that had caused so much misery since the previous couple of years, Taleb probably reflected proudly on all those times when, indefatigably, and in the face of harsh opposition, he alerted us of the lethal threat to the system posed by the widespread use of VAR in finance land. Now that the damage wrought by VAR was so inescapably obvious that lawmakers from the most powerful nation on the planet had been motivated into investigating the device, Taleb no longer seemed like a lone wolf howling in the market's wild, but rather appeared as imperially prescient. What is so wrong about VAR, and why was Taleb so concerned about its impact? Most importantly, why should VAR be held responsible for the historic 2007 to 2008 credit crisis? VAR is a number that purports to estimate future losses deriving from a portfolio of trading assets with a degree of statistical confidence, and presents two major problems. One, it is doomed to being a very wrong estimate due to its analytical foundations and the realities of real-life markets, and two, in spite of such well-known deficiencies, it has for the past 2 decades become a ubiquitously influential force in the financial world, capable of directing decision-making inside the most important banks. In other words, by letting trading activity be guided by VAR, we have essentially exposed our economic fate to a deeply flawed mechanism. Such flawedness, as was the case not only in this crisis but also before, can yield untold malaise. The main issue with VAR is that it can easily and severely underestimate market risk. Given the model's powerful presence in finance land, that underestimation translates into recklessly huge and recklessly leveraged risk-taking on the part of banks. A particularly big problem is that VAR can translate not just into huge risk-taking and leverage for regular assets, but also for very toxic assets. As a tool that ignores the fundamental characteristics of assets, VAR can easily label the obviously risky as non-risky. VAR can mask risk so well that an entire financial system can be inundated with the worst
Sample complete. Ready to continue?